Good evening, everyone. How is everybody doing?
Great.
Good.
Wonderful. Good.
Great.
One and off.
Morning, Jason. It's morning in Japan. So, Jason always greet good morning in the evening in the States.
I'm catching up on your assignments.
Okay. All right, all right. I appreciate everybody's time. We'll start here shortly. So, tonight is also going to be a panel discussion. So, we will waiting for all our panel, our guests to get in, and then we are going to move here shortly. But if you can kindly put where you are joining us from in the chat, we will much appreciate it. And we will start time now. All right, let's begin. So welcome everyone. I appreciate your time. This is Eretmis Cyber Chat. We do this every Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern. And like I always say, it's Friday night. You could have been anywhere else, but you chose to be here to share in the knowledge with us. And we appreciate you, and we will make sure the hour or so that you spend with us is not going to waste it. You are going to gain something for your toolbox as a security professional. And, we are also willing and ready to learn and share the knowledge with everyone as part of the Eretmis community, and also as our obligation to the community, and also to build lifelong learners in cybersecurity. Right. So we appreciate your time. I'm Dr. Emmanuel Ledoux, and for tonight, our topic is Mastering Cybersecurity, GRC, and it's going to be a discussion panel with GRC experts. So we have our own. So Eretmis, for the most part, we are blessed to have all our resources. Mostly we pick from within. Students who started from, some with no IT background, some with some IT background, but they started from zero in cybersecurity, and they built themselves up to this point. And some be working in the industry 5 years, 6 years, thereabout. Some have also started 3 years, 2 years. So they are all bringing their perspective, and also for you to also know that whichever industry that you find yourself in is very possible, and you just have to keep pushing and keep bettering yourself as a security professional or aspiring security professional, and you're eventually going to get to the level that they are. So I think reason why we bring most of these resources from within is to, one, serve as a source of encouragement, and also for you to be able to relate, right? So if you bring a professor of cybersecurity who's been in IT for 30 years, I don't think you can really relate that well if you're trying to switch into cybersecurity, right? Or switch into IT in general. You might think, I mean, this guy has been doing it for, 300 years. So how am I going to do it if I took a different career path? So that is why we do what we do. So to serve as form of encouragement, and then also to let you know exactly what is going on in the industry. So for folks on here, if you are going to interviews, there have been, from the last panel discussions that we did, we've had a couple of folks call us and tell us, hey, when I went for an interview, the panel discussion was very helpful because I was easily able to recollect some of the things they talked about. So even for things that they didn't necessarily polish up on, they could easily just speak to it because they were in meetings like this. So we encourage you to share the word, spread the word, invite more folks next week when you are coming, friends and family who are interested in the cybersecurity space, and for them to learn. And then also for our YouTube channel, all this is being transmitted live on YouTube, and we also put the recording on YouTube as well. So the live streaming is there, and then also you'll be able to get the actual recording that we're also doing right now. Right. So let's move on. So I'm Dr. Emmanuel Ledoux. I'm your facilitator for this cyber chat, and Michael is going to be my co-pilot for tonight. He's going to hold or run the panel discussion, like how we did last 2 weeks for the PCI discussion that we did. A little about myself. I'm a former United States Army captain. I'm the owner of Eretmis Inc., a PCI QSA company. I'm also a QSA myself. I've been in IT in general almost 23 thereabout years, and I love cybersecurity and everything, cybersecurity and IT in general. Also a professor at university, former professor at University of Maryland Global Campus and CTC in Texas. And then I'm also the founder of Eretmis Academy that is bringing you Cyber Chat. So for Eretmis Academy, we are an authorized partner of CompTIA. And what that means is we offer 20% discount. If you purchase your exams voucher through us, we will give you that 20% discount. That is discount that we get goes to you and everybody in the Eretmis family, right? And then also for every cyber chat, we discuss this and we talk about this because your time being here is not wasted. If you are trying to renew your certifications in CompTIA or any of these other certifications, other certification bodies, you know, every 3 years you have to renew. So you can either sit for the exams again, or you can use continuous education points. And you being here counts towards your continuous education points. So if you want to use this in the chat, you can put hashtag Team Live and then take a screenshot of it, and you can, you know, start uploading those in your like the portal for continuous education in whatever certification that you have. And when it is time for you to renew, you know, eventually you'll be able to use that to renew your certification without sitting for the exams again. Or if you're like me and you like taking exams, you can sit for the exams also, right? So we appreciate your time. Now we have a WhatsApp group. If you're not part of it, you can kindly we'll put the link in there so you'll be able to join. And you know, we encourage you to join. It's a very decent group. I know there are a lot of WhatsApp groups out there that are a bit crazy. This is a decent one. We talk only about cybersecurity, and for cyber chat and all other activities that we do, we post them on there as well. So you'll be able to have the link and join us in our live sessions like this. And WhatsApp also has the Eretmis Cyber channel. You can also follow without actually joining the group. So follow Eretmis Cyber Chat channel, and you'll be able to see everything that is going on with Eretmis Cyber Chat, right? And on YouTube, our goal for the year is by October 2024, we will hit 1 million subscribers. Last week, we were at 810 subscribers, so 810K. This week, we are 856K. So we grew almost 46K within a week, which is good, right? So we encourage you to help spread the word, and we appreciate your support. And we are going to jump into our discussion for tonight. So tonight we'll be looking at some cyber news, some interesting cyber news, and then we will jump into our panel discussion for the night. So in cyber news, guess what? So before tonight, I didn't know there was a report, FBI report, that focused on what is the name of the report? Let me look at it. So it's the FBI's 2023 Elderly Fraud Report. I didn't even know there was such a report until, you know, cyber news were, you know, going through the different types of news that were out there that we thought would be more newsworthy for cyber news. So the FBI, they came up with a report, or they have this report, I think, that they bring up annually. And it focuses on what type of scams attackers are using to target seniors, our dads and moms and grandpas, and even some of us ourselves. We are gradually becoming seniors. So scammers with no, I don't even know how to put it, right? I don't know why you'll be targeting old and vulnerable people who are not IT savvy, right? And taking their money. That is really, even if you're a criminal, that should be below the law. Some people don't have any limits. So according to this report, people over the age of 60 or, you know, and above, they lost almost 3.4 billion in total losses for 2023. And this is an increase of 11%. So in 2022, it was still high, but it increased more by 11% in 2023, right? And this is from FBI's Intel report. And the report is the Elderly Fraud Report that was released, I think, this week or somewhere last week. I think this news was last week or this week, somewhere thereabout, right? But the main point is they have this report that was released that shows that our elderly were falling victim, like they are now falling victim more than in 2022, right? And now we're in 2024, and I think the number, I am assuming the number is probably going up, right? So that is really unfortunate. And on top of the list of these types of scams that they were able to use to get money from the elderly, it included investment and cryptocurrency scams, personal data breaches, as well as confidence and romance scams as well. They were all on top of the list that led to a loss of 3.4 billion with a B, Alice, right? And so this is kind of like a statistics of how the whole thing went about. So for tech support was on top of the list, right? And what they normally do with tech support is, if you go to a site, they will, some of these sites, you will see something pop up saying that your maybe your antivirus has expired or something, or they did a scan on your system and they found a lot of viruses or a lot of malware. So click here to, those stuff is what will lead into that. And if you're not very computer savvy or you're not cyber savvy, you are going to fall for this. So tech support was on top of the list. Personal data breach was also on the confidence and romance, was in there. Investment scams were also, so these were like top of the list. Now, when we look at it also by age, complaints that were made by age, so under 20, there were a total of 18,000 and the total loss was 40 million. And the list goes on. So 20 to 29, right there, about all the way to over 60, it was 110,000 complaints, and 3.4 billion is what was reported in losses. So very unfortunate. We will open the floor for discussions on how you think we can go about this. The biggest one is awareness, right? So if your mom, your dad, your grandma, they are around, you have to, whatever you are learning here shouldn't just be for you, but share it with your family, especially the elderly, for them to know these things are out there. So if they encounter anything like that, they should call you or somebody else before they decide to engage with these unknown people online that are trying to help you. So we should kindly keep an eye on that as well. So with that, we'll move into our next cyber news before we give the floor, and then we'll move on. So next cyber news, MediExcel. I'm not sure if this was what Renee and others were talking about last week. I think last 2 weeks, about a company that, like the medical company that was having issues with data breach. I'm not sure if this was the company. This company, they are in the news also because they did something really that could have been prevented, right? So attackers didn't even try to breach their network or do anything like that. It was something that was their own doing that ended up in exposing over 500,000 users' information, right? So this is a US-based health provider. They left their S3, Amazon S3 instance open, right? They left it unsecured and anybody on the net could easily access it, right? So that led to the exposing information of their customers, and the information included medical bills, invoices, insurance claims, copies of registration, diagnosis, and the rest. This is an example of some of the documents that were just in the public domain. Although this has been sanitized, but this is not good. And guess what caused this? So the main issue here was, guess what? Access control misconfiguration. So whoever is in charge of cybersecurity over there and the IT folks, they really dropped the ball on this one, right? Whoever is in charge of the AWS architects and the rest, they dropped the ball on this one. Because this misconfiguration led to the exposure of all that sensitive information. So it wasn't even an attacker who was trying to breach them. It was just their own doing. Right? Now, when it was discovered and, it was brought to the attention they kind of fixed it so the data is no longer available in the public space. So if you're trying to look for it in there, you're not going to find it. So a little bit they could have done better, they could have done more, but big companies, they normally will have issues like this because of complacency and people in those positions, complacency, and sometimes a little bit on the side of incompetence. Because this is very, like cybersecurity 101, access control, cybersecurity 101, that should be the least that you are going to think about. So an attacker didn't even try to breach, you just literally gave all your information out in the public space, which is not good, right? So whilst we move on, anybody else with some cyber news, we just take 2 or 3. And if you have any comments on this one, before we move on. Renee, please go ahead.
Yeah, that one, that's a newbie for me. I didn't know about that one. But update on AT&T, it was 72 or 73 million customers impacted by the threat. Yeah, that was a big number.
Wow.
Yeah. I just thought I would share that. Yeah, that was a big one. You're welcome.
Yeah, that was a huge one. Oh. All right, Jamal, please go ahead.
Good evening, Dr. Adu.
Yes, good evening.
I just want to make everyone aware it's the news. You heard of skimming. So now they have one called shimming with an H. And they have a flat metal piece that they slide inside the ATM machine. And they have a camera attached. And while you slide in your card, it gets all of your information off of the strip. And then there's a little camera that watches you put your PIN number in. So be aware of that.
Oh, okay. Thank you. So just like like some of the tips that were given last week, before you use ATM machines or anywhere you are making payments, just be the weird one out there. Just touch it, try to pull something. Do something that will let you know for sure there are no scammers or anything attached to it. So, you can save everybody else who is behind you in the line to pay. So thank you, Jamal, for that one. Shongo, please go ahead.
Welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Adu. State University research says that cybersecurity vulnerabilities and ELDs for truck drivers is electronic logging devices. This is what we use to log our driving time. But these vulnerabilities can allow attackers to take control of semi-trucks, steal data, and even slow down the vehicle. And they can also, they're clever enough to hack into your Bluetooth system. If your Bluetooth system is weak, I forget what they call it. But I want everyone to be aware of truck-to-truck cyber attacks from these commercial vehicles.
Oh, okay. Thank you for that insight. Eliko, please go ahead.
Hey, good evening. So can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think last week I got a call from someone who was trying to tell me about student loan, which I have, and they told me that, they are now, I think Biden has some program where they will enter my name and cancel all my student loan. And I just told them, no, I think you have the wrong number. And he was like, so he said my full name and this is your date of birth. And I was like, no, that's not me. And I just hung up on him. But it looks like some platform must have been hacked for them to have access to that kind of information, like somebody who has a student loan and they have their full name and date of birth and that kind of information.
Thank you. So yes, very great point. So if anybody calls you or they email you and they have all your information, even the time that you were born, don't be so surprised and don't let that give some level of trust or credence to those folks. right? Most especially if it's unsolicited. So if the government has any free program that is a program that is forgiving, like a student loan forgiveness program, you have to go and apply yourself. They are not going to call you and tell you because they like you so much, they are going to just do everything over the phone. So if it sounds too good to be true, it's too good to be true. So, but great. Thank you for sharing that, Alaku. Isaiah, please go ahead and we will move forward.
Hey guys, good evening. Dr. Dude's pleasure always. Going back to the previous statement, yes, if the U.S. government, if somebody calls me with the U.S. government claiming that either they can do this for you, just remember the U.S. government does not call you. Dr. Du and I both know that very well serving. So the U.S. government does not call you, but they do have programs with the student. But like Dr. Du says, yes, you do have to. I think what's happening, if I'm not aware, Dr. Doom, can you talk about the Verizon report? I love that. I actually read it. They did break it down that a lot of the information was pulled from the MOVEit breach that happened last year, guys. So if you get any particular thing compromised, just remember it's a lot of that. The number one was education, and the number two was healthcare. Those are the two that was hacked in the last 2 years where a lot of data was pulled out. So if they do have information upon you, don't be hesitant. Always trust your first instinct. It will never let you down.
All right. All right. Thank you, Isaiah. And I think last, Kwame, please go ahead and we'll wrap up.
Prof, I wanted to ask about the one you said they give their access. I wanted to know who could be the main force or the fault in terms of the cybersecurity department or the network department that could have been negligent enough to have given that access information to the people, or you just generalize the whole problem to be for the cybersecurity team?
Okay, so when it comes to access control and anything under identity and access management, although whoever is in charge of your AWS, your cloud architects and those folks, they work together with the cyber folks to make sure that even for just the cloud architects and folks doing cloud stuff, those are some of the basic things that they do. Like you can't do networking or become a network engineer without knowing some of the things you have to do for security in networking, right? So for a misconfiguration, that will be on the part of whoever is in charge of setting up the AWS for the company, right? So whatever their job title is, that will be them. But then also is on the cybersecurity folks in the company to make sure, if they are doing their, maybe they have their own quarterly audits that they do, or they have their semi-annually audits that they do, they would have caught that, right? So that is why if you are in a company, in any role, most especially in a managerial leadership role, you are the guy or the girl with a plan. You have to make sure as part of your strategy, your company, you are doing quarterly, I would say quarterly. If your company is super huge, do at least half a year, do your own internal audits, right? Don't just wait for your audits that is going to be the audits that is actually needed, that is mandated, right, by the industry or by law. You have to do your own audits using whichever framework that you want. They would have caught all these. But most companies, they just stay there and wait till the 12 months when they have to do their PCI or their 2 audits or whatever audit that they have to do, right? And even with that, if they were, I don't really know much more about what really happened, but if they did any audits before this happened and they passed the audit, then that is also a big question mark, right? Unless, of course, that wasn't part of, but I beg to differ because that will be in scope for their HIPAA audits. With all that health information in there, that their AWS, including their S3 buckets, will be in scope for their PCI audit. So I don't know who passed them on their PCI audits, or this happened after the fact, or after they passed their PCI, not the PCI, their HIPAA audits, right? but we really don't know if it happened after their HIPAA, when they passed their HIPAA, was when the misconfiguration happened, or the misconfiguration was there and they didn't catch it during their HIPAA audit. I'm not really sure. So if they are doing, that is why we do internal audits, right? And we do, even for like the mandated ones, it helps to catch such things, right? So even if an attacker is not attacking you, if you have your own misconfigurations, you'll be able to rectify it and make sure you are good. So the blame really goes both sides. Whoever is directly in charge of it is to be blamed. The cybersecurity folks who are doing the oversight is their baby. So they are the ones who are to be blamed. And overall, CISO is in charge of this, so it's his fault. All right, hopefully that answers your question, Juan. All right, so for folks on here who are trying to get into the cybersecurity space, if you have no IT background, or you do have some IT background, cybersecurity background somewhat, we encourage you to get into our cybersecurity entry-level course. It is going to take you from where you are to where you can become an intermediate level cybersecurity professional. You can work in different roles. It comes with 2 months of training and then 2 months of internship. And we do job placement assistance where we help you find a job. With the internship, you're also going to work on real-world cybersecurity projects, 10 major projects where you are going to gain that confidence and then also the working experience you need to bridge between gap and skill to be able to get onto the cybersecurity industry. Now, during interviews, you'll be able to speak to things that you've done, not things that you just studied. So if you are looking to break into cybersecurity, even if you've taken some courses already and you're not really sure about yourself, we encourage you to get into our cybersecurity entry level. And if you're starting from zero, you have no IT background, no cybersecurity background, it's also good for you, right? Also, there is one-on-one mentorship that you are also going to get. And with that, we move into folks who are already in cybersecurity or in the IT space. You are looking to specialize in the most lucrative, arguably the most lucrative area of cybersecurity or a niche in cybersecurity. Then we encourage you to get into our PCI DSS training. We just started our new cohort this past Thursday, and it's really exciting. So if you missed that one, the next one is starting in July. So you can hop onto that one also as well. And we encourage you to spread the word for anyone who wants to get into the payment security industry. This is the right path for you. It also comes with internship, also that you are going to have that real world. You are going to work on not almost all the projects that you need to become a very successful cybersecurity PCI professional, right? For us, all our training is geared towards what you are going to do on the job, not even scaling interviews. But let's say they didn't even interview and they just gave you the job. Will you be able to do it? Or you are going to be a working heart attack? And you know who I call a working heart attack? Somebody who's gotten a cybersecurity job and cannot do it, right? You don't go to bed. They are paying you good money, but they are just paying you good money to have high blood pressure because you are panicking to even go log onto your system or go to work in the morning. You don't know what is going to happen, who is going to troubleshoot you or who is going to test what you know. And most of the things that will come your way are probably even like kindergarten cybersecurity stuff. But because you have a lot of gaps in your knowledge base, you just know or you read or you just took some course, they taught you some concepts and theories, and then that's it. You've never actually done anything. Probably you're able to talk your way through interviews, but on the job, that is going to expose you, right? Now you actually have to perform. There is no talking at that point. They give you projects, you're on your own, big boy, big girl role, you have to execute, right? So some of these projects, and even like all of it, you cannot Google and Google cannot do your work for you. So get some real world hands-on that is really going to help you to be successful in your role as either a cybersecurity professional or PCI DSS professional as well. Now we are jumping into our cybersecurity internship, right? So for our cybersecurity internship, we offer it to folks with some cybersecurity background already. If you've taken some course somewhere, probably you've done RMF or some other courses, and you don't have the hands-on real-world experience, this is what we encourage you for you to jump in. Our next cohort is starting tomorrow. at 11 a.m. Eastern. And we encourage you to join. If you couldn't join that one, our next one is going to be on 6th of July. So you can hop onto that one to get the real world hands-on training. That will help you set you apart from other folks. So during interviews, you are speaking to what you've done, not what you just studied or memorized, right? And then on the job, you can also execute because you've actually done it. You've done all these projects. You have all these projects under your belt. So with that being said, we are going to jump into Mastering Cybersecurity GRC, our round table panel discussion. And I'm going to have Michael, take it from here. So if Michael, you are here, you can go ahead and take it from here. I'm going to pin all our panel members and we are going to begin. If you have any questions or contributions, you can raise your virtual hand as we are moving along, and you can bring it up whilst we are, repositioning ourselves to start with a discussion. So, Michael, if you're on here, you can take it from here.
All right, thanks. Can everyone hear me? All right, thumbs up. All right, cool. So good evening or morning. I know we have some folks in Japan and other side of the continent. So yeah, thank you all. Appreciate you all for joining. We have a good one for you today. And before we dive into it, we'll introduce our panel members. So please, you can give me a quick thumbs up or, quick check. I think someone have their hands raised. I don't know if we already addressed that. Is it a GK Okafor? Or that has already been addressed? Just making sure before we continue.
No, that hasn't. You can go ahead and ask your question, please.
Yeah. GK, please go ahead. All right, maybe we'll go ahead and we'll circle back. I think probably if you're talking, you're still on mute. If not, yeah, we'll proceed and we'll come back to you. All right, so let's go ahead and introduce our panel members. So I'll start with Sheila. Sheila, please, are you online?
Yep, I think Sheila is on here.
Okay, Sheila is all here. All right, okay, so Divine. I think Divine from Boston.
I'm live from
Divine.
Boston.
There you go. Thank you so much for representing live in Canada. All right, how about Kingsley?
Yeah, I'm right here from Arizona.
Nice. Kingsley from AZ and our very own Michael Yabua. I call him man of many talents. He does so many things. All right, Michael, are you online?
Yes, sir. I'm here.
There you go. How about Bernice?
I'm here.
There we go. And Teresa. All right. Is Teresa here too?
I think Teresa says she's going to join around 7:40.
Okay. Got it. Should be joining later. All right, cool. So yeah, Eretmis community, this is your panel members, well-experienced, homegrown Eretmis family. So we'll dive into it. Before we do that, I always keep saying, those of you who are looking for continuing education, like Dr. Du said, you can use this to pretty much prove your CEU. So you can say just a quick hashtag team live, take a screenshot, just file it away. And if you do this every single week, all you have to do is just put hashtag team live, take a screenshot, file it away. Whatever amount that you have, you just multiply it by 1, because we typically do this like an hour, sometimes 2 hours, depending on the hours. Yeah, you multiply by the number of hours, and that's your total CEU. So don't forget to do that and take a screenshot. All right. So we'll start with, let's go with Sheila, right? Ladies first. So Sheila, if you can quickly just do a quick intro about yourself, and the team wants to know exactly how your journey was into the field of GRC. And for the larger stakeholders, GRC is governance, risk, and compliance, like a different nation cybersecurity. So Sheila, if you don't mind, can you please explain your journey into the field of GRC and what motivated you to pretty much specialize in GRC?
Thank you, Michael. Yes, I am Sheila. I used to work in the health field for several years. I had my bachelor's in health administration, and then stayed there for a couple of years in health insurance.
and then stepped into cybersecurity because my husband was taking the class, and I was just staring on his shoulders. So I studied from there, and then I got the certificate or security plus, and then started looking for a job. But from there, we couldn't find a job for so long because there were a lot of gaps in the knowledge that we acquired until we met Dr. Du, started taking the class, and got great foundation from there, and then finally landed what we do now. So that has been the journey.
All right, Sheila, thank you so much. Appreciate all your efforts. All right, so same question. Let's pivot to Divine from Boston, please, Divine. Go ahead.
Thank you, Michael. I'll be giving the perspective of someone who is still in training. I want to speak to many people who are on this call because they probably have the same journey like mine. Many people will probably see themselves in my journey. Before getting into cybersecurity in particular, I had been in a few other fields in IT. But before even IT, my background is in accounting. I have a bachelor's in accounting, and I also have an MBA, and I specialize in oil and gas. But then when I moved over to the US, then I saw the realities of the industry. And it became clearer to me that I have to build a career in a very lucrative field. And the word on the street has always been IT. So I started as a business analyst because my accounting and my management background will make it easy for me to work as a business analyst. I did a few projects there, and it was quick for me to discover that was a field that will probably not have a long ladder, or maybe did not have a ladder at all, because you're a business analyst and that's it. There's no senior business analyst, or there's no business analyst manager, nothing. So the career progression was not there. And also, coming from that background, there were a few knowledge gaps, because unless you had started a long time ago, it will be a bit difficult for you to get to a level of the seniors. And usually when most of us get into the US, we'll try to take the short route to get into the field. And so it was clear, it was evident to me that I have to build a career somewhere in IT. But where would that be? I took a critical look at all domains in IT, and I came to discover that cybersecurity was the most sustainable of all fields in IT, for obvious reasons. And then I also discovered that it's an area where a lot of information, many things are talked about, but all systems, all domains, and all fields in IT are dependent on security. And GRC in particular is one of those areas where it will be much easier for me to integrate, because I was coming from a non-coding background. And I'm sure that many people on this call can easily relate to that. If you're coming from a non-coding background, probably GRC is one of the areas where it will be easier for you to integrate. So I made a decision to get into GRC. And after a lot of research, I came across Eretmis Academy. And after following the Friday calls for a long time, then I took an interest in the payment card industry. And from my background, I knew that I had to start from the bottom and work my way up to avoid mistakes that I had made before and to actually build a career. So I made a decision that this is the area where I want to build a career.
Hey, Divine, thank you so much. And we'll do this probably during the course of the discussion, but the team will probably love to talk to you all. So if you can share your LinkedIn or contacts, because most of them will probably like to connect with you or after the call, but we'll do this towards the end. And like Dr. Drew was saying, we've had some teams, some people calling and just expressing the appreciation for these cyber chats because they've literally listened to just these cyber chats and they've done very well on their interviews based on what you say. So really do appreciate our panel members for taking time, carving some time out of their busy schedule because the value and the impact is being felt. All right, Kingsley, can you please go ahead and let us know how you got into GRC?
All right. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Dr. Adu. First and foremost, let me appreciate God for the opportunity that I have. It's always a privilege for me to be here. I don't take it for granted. Talking about getting to GRC, I was looking for the easy way out. And with just a little background, I have my degree in public administration, master's in administration of justice and security. And that was partly because I've been working in the law enforcement industry for the longest time. Back from Nigeria, I was a police officer. I came here, joined corrections, became a parole officer. But in all of that, I didn't have that fulfillment, in terms of job satisfaction, in terms of the pay, in terms of having, extra time to spend with family. So when I decided after my master that I want to really get into cybersecurity, what I was looking for was an easy way out. And I went around and find out that GRC was what I thought was the easy way out because it's not very technical, like Divine said. But I would probably say I was wrong because there's no aspect of cybersecurity that is not technical, whether you like it or not. Because there are key three things we're doing in cybersecurity: confidentiality, integrity, and availability. And you cannot function in any of these three to achieve any of these three without understanding how the network works, without understanding how systems interact with each other, how data is used or how data is collected and all of that. So for me, I thought I was looking for something that wasn't technical, but there are still some aspect of it. If you don't know the basics, like Dr. Adu will tell you, you can't function in the entire system. You might just, and that's why some people would BS their way through interviews, get to the job, and they're stranded because, you thought, oh, but they didn't tell me that I was going to be looking at firewalls when they hired me. Well, sir, if you're collecting logs, you're going to be looking at firewalls. So basically, well, that's what drew my interest. I'm like, okay, this area looks like it's simple to enter in. And I started working at it, joined Eretmis. Again, my foundation, I owe everything to Eretmis Academy. I keep saying that because the foundation that Dr. Adu laid for me is what I'm working on today. Everything is based on that internship. Once I did that internship, it kind of opened my eyes to say, okay, this is possible. And every time I went for interview, I was speaking to that internship. Oh, what have you done? Tell me where you've done this. Again, I go back to the internship. And that was where I built my foundation. I'm building on it today. And I remember when I got my first job, some people called me and said, how did you go from being a parole officer to a senior information security analyst? I said, ask Dr. Adu, I don't know. So, but that is my story. And basically what drew my interest was it's an area where I feel like if you're very detail oriented, because you have to look at policies. You have to look at data elements and all of that and see how everything aligns together. You have to look at, if you're working in the cloud environment, who has access to a cloud environment, how you get in there, who identity and access management and all of that. So that kind of it's how I got into it, and by the grace of God, it's been fun.
All right. Thank you so much, Kingsley. All right, Mike, let's pivot to Mike, my namesake.
Yeah, good evening, everybody, or good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. So yeah, thanks for the invite, Dr. Edu, as usual. And really, as Kingsley just said, we don't really take it granted, once Dr. Edu invites us. It's always a pleasure to be here to also help push people who are coming behind us, right? Because we actually also had that push. That's where we are today. So it's always a pleasure to be here and help, others also get to wherever they plan on getting to. So just a little background, and I'll try to make it very brief. So I, like many, come from a healthcare background. So I did get my bachelor's in biology. And after college, I was actually planning on getting into pharmacy school. So I was actually, writing and studying for my PCATs. Then my wife just came up with this cybersecurity thing, right? She just threw it in front of me, and she was like, why don't you, get it and look into what cybersecurity can offer in terms of job security and job availability. So initially, I wasn't really convinced because I've been, raised just focusing on the health, right? Either medical school or pharmacy school. So nothing in cybersecurity ever crossed my mind. So I took it on the bet, and I started looking into it, and started Googling as usual, and started finding out about how specialized and how broad cybersecurity is. But then once you talk to people, everybody makes cybersecurity, they make it look so complicated. But then just doing my own research, and then getting together with Dr. Edu, and talking to Dr. Edu, and Dr. Edu actually break it down for me and explain to me that in cybersecurity there is an area for everybody in cybersecurity, right? Unless you don't want to do it. So if you're ready and committed and want to put in the work, we can find an area for you in cybersecurity. So it's not just GRC, right? Cyber operations, we have the auditing, and under GRC, we have a lot of many areas under GRC that you can just basically you can just focus, you can just have one focus area that can be an area under GRC. So yeah, so I took, as I said, my wife on the bed, got to together with Dr. Edu, and then started my journey in cybersecurity. So I started my journey in April 2022, and I even remember my first meeting with Dr. Edu. I told Dr. Edu, "Hey, Doc, I'm so into this cybersecurity thing, and I would like to be working in 5 months, right?" And mind you, I was coming in with no background, like no IT background, no cybersecurity background, like nothing, basically zero, right? So I told Dr. Edu, "Hey, I want to work in 5 months," and probably Dr. Edu look at me, very, very surprised. I mean, look at this guy coming in here saying he wants to work in about 5 months without no prior experience. But guess what? I started my journey in April 2022, and I started my job in September 2022, which was exactly 5 months. And so basically, right, I put my mind to it. I put in the work, and just like us, I was able to do it. That's how everybody else can do it, right? It's not easy, to be honest. It's not easy, right? Especially coming from an area where you basically don't have any background, you don't have any experience, you don't have the fundamentals, you lack the basis. But I'm here to tell you, like, I'm a living testament of the fact that you can do it, right? If I was able to do it coming from a healthcare background with no experience, with no basics, trust me, you can as well. So, just here to encourage everybody on here, you are at the right place, right? So don't let anything let you down. Just keep pushing, put in the work, and trust me, that your price is way ahead of you. So that's just a little background of my stuff, and with time and with this cyber chat, we'll probably get into more details on how we get to where we are. So that's it for me for now.
Such an awesome story and background for Mike. Also, Mike, I know we go way back. So thanks to your wife for changing your life. I'm just kidding with Mike.
Man, she did.
Thank you so much. You'll probably still be paying a lot of student loans from pharmacy school. All right.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, we'll go to Bernice. So Bernice, right after you, Teresa, you can continue. I don't think Teresa is here yet, but yeah, Bernice, can you please tell us how you got here?
Hello, good evening, everyone. Dr. Edu, thank you so much for this opportunity. So a little bit about me, my background, I had my first degree in land economy, land management. Moving here, I got into the health sector. So how I got into GRC or cybersecurity, I was motivated by my sister. So I wanted to pursue a career aside the healthcare because knowing that the healthcare industry is nowhere I wanted to go. So I took the RMF risk management framework course, but prior to that, I did coding bootcamp, but I had opportunity to talk to friends who were already in the GRC field. So comparing the coding and the RMF courses, I'm like, okay, this is much easier as a mother. So that is how I got into the GRC. I did a course, and during my search for job, I was introduced to Dr. Du by Naneje, who is a friend of Dr. Du and also a friend of my husband. So I got in touch with Dr. Du, and he kind of evaluated me, and he realized that there were some gaps. So luckily I met Dr. Du. He did help me to kind of fill in the gaps. So that is how I got my first job. So he really helped me, kind of took me through the foundation, what I need to be able to get a job. So luckily I got a job, I believe about 6 weeks or a month. I got my first job in the compliance side of the GRC. Currently working in the REX as a REX ISSO in the REX sector of the GRC. So that's a little bit of how I got into the GRC.
All right. Thank you so much, Bernice from LE Community. All right. So Teresa, I think Teresa joined. So please, if you can go ahead and tell us how you got here.
All right. This is Teresa here. And again, thank you for the opportunity given to me. It's always a pleasure to really even have this chance to share our story with others so that others can be motivated, because we all have also benefited from others sharing their stories. And so for me, how I got here, I did my bachelor's in political science, and then geography was a double major. And then I did my master's in health information systems. And so really I started off working as a QA analyst, and I was really enthused with technology. And so all the time I was just looking for something like that. So I remember looking for a job, and I got into a place where it was just management and no IT. I was really like not really happy over there. And I was looking for that thing that would excite me. So I heard about this RMF. I took the RMF class. I went ahead to write my security class, and I looked for a job. I went for many interviews, but still no job. And then a friend of mine here, Sami, heard about Dr. Du because he was already in the class, and he said a whole lot of stuff, good stuff about Dr. Du, and gave me all his links to go check it out. And I mean, once I saw the links, there was no doubt that this was really the big deal, the real deal, because we have paid money, me and my husband, like over that much money to others to do the RMF, and we had so much gaps, I couldn't find a job. So here I just joined the internship, and right after the internship, I got a job as a vulnerability manager. And that's my story, how I got here. And it's been great. And I owe everything to Dr. Du with his support. And just going to the internship is not the deal, but the support that we got after, finding that job is very huge, which we don't find everywhere. So, and even having such a great community to even share your story with, and also have others to support you and ask your questions when you are really looking for a job, it's amazing. So I'm very thankful, Dr. Du, for all your support, and that's how I got here. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. I think we got everybody now. Now let's go dive straight into what we have for you all. So let me start with Teresa, right off the bat, Teresa. So can you tell us how your typical day looks like as a GRC professional?
All right. So in my role, I work as vulnerability manager, program manager, so vulnerability risk manager, and it's like the whole program is just me. and I do have other teams that I coordinate with. So what I do is that really there is one tool called Vulcan that all their scanning tools, I think about 6 of them, they scan all their endpoints, their computers, and then it dumps all the findings, vulnerabilities into that tool. And my job is to go through that tool and prioritize those findings. And then I'll export them into Jira to create Jira tickets. And then what I do is daily I schedule meetings with the security operations team, the application security team, just going through those findings, those vulnerabilities in the system to see which ones we can remediate, because my job is to make sure that those vulnerabilities have been remediated. And if not, I mean, if the risk can be accepted, where are where are the validations that exist that we can close out these vulnerabilities? And aside from working with that Vulcan tool, what I do is that the company also go through some, I think, security scorecard assessment. And so based on that assessment, there are also findings that come out of those assessment. And so my job is that once I get those findings, I curate tickets using Jira, and then I monitor those like every day, working with the teams, the support teams, to make sure that those findings are remediated. Also annually, the company also go through there's a pen test that goes out, I think, every year. And so after those the pen test is done, it's done by an external company. Once they come in and do that, those findings too, it's my job to get create tickets for those findings and also coordinate with the other teams, the application team, the other security teams, to make sure that those vulnerabilities are remediated. So really that's my job, and it's just coordinating, making sure that findings are being resolved every day. Yeah.
Wow, thank you so much, Teresa. So VMAP's vulnerability management operations is very huge. Those in the PCI class know exactly, well, anybody else actually in cybersecurity and GRC field know exactly how VM vulnerability management is very, very important, right? So we can probably have a whole chat about vulnerability management. So the community actually wants to know some of the tools that you use, the scanning tool that you were talking about with the VM vulnerability management. So Teresa, if you can type that in the chat. I know you talked about Jira. I think Jira, everybody grabbed that, but the tool that you were using.
Be quick. We use Orca. Orca is one of the scanning, one for Snake, SonarQube, and Strike. All those are the scanning tools. I believe they are 6 of them. I can remember these ones for now. So they all scan their points, their network, and just dump in that Vulcan tool. Vulcan management tool that the company has is like paid for, and so all those findings in their Vulcan tool. But those scanning tools, once I mentioned, CrowdStrike, SonarQube, Snake, Orca, yeah, that's what I remember for now.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah. So the community is still asking if you can type them in the chat,
okay,
so that you see them. So yeah, whenever you get a chance. Yeah. Let's pivot to Bernice. Bernice, can you also walk us through some of the tools, your daily pretty much routine with the GRC, and also if you have some tools, if you can type that in the chat after your delivery.
Okay. All right. So currently I am the Information System Security Officer, ISSO. So I serve as the liaison between system owners and other teams. So on a daily basis, I coordinate with my like key stakeholders to ensure that our ATO, which is the authorization to operate for the system that I'm assigned to. So currently I'm assigned to about 10 systems. So I coordinate with each of these stakeholders to ensure that our authority to operate, commonly known as ATO, is maintained, because we need to renew them on 3 year. Every 3 year, you need to renew it. So you have to ensure that the ATO is good. And if not, we have to kind of go through this the assessment and authorization process. And also I also coordinate with our stakeholders to make sure that our security control assessment for the systems are also up to date. So we coordinate with independent assessors for controls that need to be assessed for the system that I'm assigned to. I also take part, or I organize quarterly meetings, meet with my stakeholders to ensure that POEM, which is plan of action and milestones for findings that were identified through various means, are also up to date. We close them, we validate with evidence to make sure that those findings are also closed. So those are most of the things that we discuss during the quarterly meetings. Make sure that if you have any RTRA, I do follow up. RTRA is the IT risk acceptance for POEMs that kind of need more time to remediate, or that goes beyond their remediation timeline. So we have to request risk acceptance for those kind of findings. So I coordinate with them to make sure that they are good to go, or if those findings are no more needed, or we need to close out those RTRA for whatever reason, if the asset has been decommissioned, or if we need to renew the RTRA for another 1 year. So I also coordinate with them on that. I also conduct risk assessment, security impact assessment for changes that happen for my system, to make sure that we identify any risks and report the risks to management to make decisions before those changes are being implemented. I'm also involved in documentation, updating, reviewing security documentation for all my assigned systems, such as SSP, configuration management plan, and a lot of documentation that I need to update to make sure that they're all good. And we need to submit some of this documentation to renew our ATO. So in a nutshell, so I'm always coordinating with my stakeholders to make sure that we are good on our ATO. So in a nutshell, that's what my day is like. Some of the tools that I use is Nessus for vulnerability scanning. I also use Tripwire. It's also a vulnerability scanning tool, but that is for like policy compliance to identify any findings in terms of configuration management. And also, I also use Archer, which is our GRC tool for the documentation. We store our security documentation also in that tool as well. So those are the main two that I use. And also, for sure, I also use Excel to track some of these findings, vulnerability scanning report that we get from Nexus.
All right, Bernice, thank you so much. It looks like you're dropping so many tools here and so many acronyms. Maybe probably we have to do a session one time of FedRAM so we can break these ATO and SSO, the system security report and plans and everything. But yeah, so yeah, great job. Thanks, Bernice. CrowdStrike, obviously. So Teresa just dropped all the tools that she used in the chat. So in case you haven't seen it, it's in the chat right there. And these VM vulnerability scanning tools, some of them are external. Some companies do have their own in-house vulnerability scanning tools that they use, right? And it scores them. And we'll dive more into it as we keep going, just to give a broader, general idea for those who probably might still trying to think or figure out what we are talking about. All right, Sheila, please, Sheila, go ahead and walk us through your daily cybersecurity GRC routine. Sheila, if you're talking, you're on mute. If not, I can probably pick it. Yeah,
I got it. Sorry.
No, you get.
Yeah. My job is more of education, because I work for the state, and the section or the agency of the state that I work for is responsible for elections. So my goal, or our goal for our section, is mainly, I always say, cybersecurity merged with elections, trying to ensure that election security is intact. So my main thing is I have to educate the cities and town clerks, or the stakeholders in that aspect. And I do manage about 70 70 cities and towns. So I coordinate with the people in charge of election there, and then also in relation to the IT department. So I meet with IT directors to actually assess. So we basically start with a baseline, which is very much the same as the internship that we went through with Dr. Edu. So we start with baseline to identify all the assets first. And then based on knowing what you have, then we'll be able to provide suggestions and what the state is recommending. So I kind of be in the middle of that stakeholder and then the state in terms of what the state is requiring when it comes to election security. So I do a lot of incident response plan, business continuity, disaster recovery, usually for the election office and also for the IT department, because they always have, well, I don't want to go into too much of that, but basically my job is more of education. And so monitoring that they are meeting their required education that they need when it comes to cybersecurity. We always assign awareness training. And so the tools that I use to monitor that, we use one called Know Before to keep track of who is doing their training and not. And then also sit down with them to work on their incident response plan, and then their business continuity, as I mentioned, a disaster recovery. And there's one provisioning and deprovisioning, which is the onboarding and offboarding. I'm sure you guys have learned that from Dr. Edu's class, but yes, so there's several of them that I work with to ensure that the office that I am dealing with at that moment or that stakeholder is accomplishing that to meet the state requirement that the office where I am working is requiring them to do. So I basically don't use a lot of tools, but I do schedule my own time. I manage my own hours. So based on what time I want to meet is when I schedule that. So sometimes I will meet via Zoom, sometimes I will meet in person to go and either sit down with them and also sit with the IT director on what they have in place and what they do not have. We do ransomware check also to see their preparedness towards ransomware, what their preparation towards that, which comes down to their backup systems that they have in place, and so forth. So that is basically what I do. There's a lot more, but to sum it up, that's what I do.
All right, thank you so much, Sheila. Yeah. Sheila talked about Know Before. K Before is one of the popular tools that most companies use for security awareness training and also pushing out phishing emails, simulation emails. So yeah, it's a very good one out there, very common in the industry. All right, Divine, can you please go ahead and talk to us? Divine, if you're talking, I think you're mute. If not, I can pivot to
yeah, I mean,
Michael. Okay, there you go.
Okay. Oh, okay. So unlike the other speakers, I will give you a different angle of work. My job is to study. So I've been studying with Eretmis for a long time, and every time I finish one level, I want to go to the next level. So with Eretmis, I started with the first engagement I had with Dr. Du was at the time when I was just starting in cybersecurity. We were just starting in cybersecurity. I didn't have any training yet, so Edu sent me back to begin from the basics. So I studied for the Security Plus. And after the Security Plus, I came back to Eretmis, and Dr. Edu admitted me in the GRC internship. It was a fantastic experience. And after that internship, I completed the program and I wanted more. So I got admitted into the PCI program, which is a specialization of GRC dealing with the payment card industry. We did the PCI training program. After the training program, we did a very intensive hands-on internship with the Eretmis where we work on real life projects. And after that internship, I was ready for the job market, just like my other folks. But personally, I wasn't there yet. There was still more to do. And so I elected to study even more. And so I got admitted again into the expert program, which is still more study. So that's why I say my job is to study, study and study. And allow me to say that Eretmis is one of those rare, if not the only organization where, or academy, where the classroom is actually transformed into a workplace. So my job on a daily basis is to study and get myself up to speed. So as a trainee of Eretmis, you do have to study a lot. Now there are platforms where the academy puts all the material that you need for training. Actually, you can train for a program on your own because right from day one, you have everything right up to your last day. That is just one part of it. The second part of my job as a trainee is to do research. With research, I have to go above. I have to go above and beyond what is prescribed as training material, because the cybersecurity space is one of those environments which is ever evolving. At the beginning of this session, Dr. Blue took us through news. It tells you that there's always something new happening. So as a trainee, you have to be one step ahead. And that is one of the areas where Eretmis fights itself over other academies. You, as a trainee, you always have to be one step ahead. So my job involves studying and conducting a lot of research. Apart from conducting research, I also have to take other related programs which will add a lot of value to my current training. I take an example. At the moment, I'm training to be a PCI auditor. Apart from the material provided by Eretmis, what extra, I would ask myself, what extra training or what extra knowledge is there which can complement the training provided by Eretmis? Or what else is there that I can learn to make myself stand out in the job market and in the workplace? Because with Eretmis, the job market is just one other factor. You will get the job. That's a constant. That's why we don't labor so much on the job market, because you will get the job with the sophisticated training you get from Eretmis. So the question I will ask myself is, what other thing is there that I can learn to get myself to make myself different? So the tools I use, the first tool I use is Google. That's the regular Google, and you will be surprised by the fact that Google is pregnant with a lot of information that is untapped. And I also use my very good friend, the AI. ChatGPT has both, positive and negative applications, but on the positive side, if you know how to tap into it, ChatGPT can do so much, and it is by far the biggest game changer of our times. One of the strengths of Eretmis is that they are always one step ahead. And I think in a few of our sessions, Dr. Do already walked us through how to use ChatGPT for our benefit. And so, and apart from Google, ChatGPT, the whole wide web is there for research. And in a summary, that is how my day is. I will go through the material provided by the class, by the academy, and apart from that, I will also have to schedule several hours every day to do extra study. And the tools I use the regular web search. I use AI also to do research and to get more training. And additionally, to make myself stand out, I also pursue several other trainings and certifications. Personally, I think I have taken a short certification program on entrepreneurship with Harvard. I've taken the training for vulnerability management, and I have a certification with Qualys. And I've taken a host of others, even with IBM. So all of these are additional tickets that I will use when I get to the job market and when I get to the workplace, when myself stand up. So in summary, that's how my day looks like.
All right. Thank you so much, Divine. Appreciate your thoughts here. All right. Now let's move to Kingsley. And Kingsley, when you're done, Mike, you can please go ahead and go ahead right after Kingsley.
Okay, so in terms of daily performance, I came in at a time when the organization was migrating all the applications from the old legacy system into a new GRC tool called IBM Open Pages. And so we're using Archer, we're using Jira, and we're using the IBM Open Pages. Of course, we're using Excel. So you basically do your characterization on Excel, where you get out information from the legacy system, put them in Excel, and that will give you your rating and everything that you need. Once you get all of that information, you schedule a meeting with the application owner, fill out what you meet from wherever you got your information from. And then once that is done, you transfer that information into IBM Open Pages and give you the inherent score. I will determine if you're going to close out that application or you're going to do further investigation, do a more deeper evaluation where the subject matter expert has to answer by 150 questions. So once you get all of that done, you put it in the system. If it still comes out as a high, you now have to get a justification from that subject matter expert why we're going to close that application as a high. Oftentimes, because of the people get access into the application, because if it's an internet-facing application, then it becomes very high. The probability of an attack on it becomes very, very high. So when you have your intrusion prevention and detection system in place, because it's public internet facing, it's more exposed than if it was internally facing. So you give that justification, and all of that will help you determine how that application goes. So I have a bunch of those, I mean, like close to 100, because we're trying to migrate everything out of that old system. So where you run into issues, you have to raise a JIRA ticket that will help you escalate it to the next level of, resolution. We also use Archer, and then we use IBM Open Pages. So those are the 3 or 4 basic tools we're using right now. So your day-to-day operation depends on you. Your applications are already assigned to you. You determine what your priority is. You have a deadline to get your applications done. So you determine what falls within which quarter and when you want to get it done. So that's what I do.
All right. Thank you so much, Kingsley. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mike. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, absolutely. Yeah. So I I actually, as a GRC analyst, I have a broader scope, so I don't mainly have just one focus area. I basically do a little bit of everything, right? So you name it, and I'm there. So starting with policy review. So for my role on a daily basis, policy review is one of the areas that I actually manage. So I manage policy reviews. I also manage vulnerability management process, as well as our third-party risk management. I'm also an internal auditor for the company. So basically ensure that, and when I say I'm also like, I work with the GRC peer. So it's basically we have two GRC analysts, right? And we are in compliance with ISO and SOC 2. So she manages the SOC 2 and I manage ISO. So but then it's interchangeable, right? So whenever we have a SOC 2 audit, I actually act as a support GRC analyst and help her get through the SOC 2 audit. And whenever our ISO audit comes up, same thing with she joins and help me get through that audit, even though she's actually the lead internal auditor for that audit for SOC 2, and vice versa, I am for ISO. So basically policy review, third-party risk management, auditing, as well as third-party risk management. So basically ensuring, so with third-party risk management, right? So basically we have different processes within third-party risk management. So let's say whenever there is an onboarding vendor, right? Whenever our company is getting in business with another company, we have what we call a contract review, right? So every contract, right, there's always a security portion. So we actually have to review the security portion of the contract to make sure it aligns with our cybersecurity environment, right? So whatever doesn't align, we basically strike it out, or we can work with the other company to find a compromise. So those are some of the things I do on a daily basis. So I said policy review, auditing, third-party risk management, vulnerability management, as well as training awareness. So I'm also in charge of training awareness, and I'm actually the person in charge of basically, conducting the phishing campaigns as well. So GRC, and basically that's what I love about GRC, because with GRC, you have to do a little bit of everything, right? So, and that's where you find job security as well, right? Because if you can do a little bit of everything, it's always hard for a company to let go of you, right? Instead of you just being maybe just one focus area. Because guess what? We recently had some, company changes, and some auditors were let go. And then I became the internal auditor because I'm a GRC analyst and I also do audit, right? So basically, they let the auditors go, and I'm actually functioning as an IT auditor for the company. So I'm just saying this, to just encourage everybody on the call, right? GRC is basically where you want to look at if you want you. So I know the question about reasons why you like being GRC is going to come up, but I just want to throw this out there, right? GRC, it comes with a lot of job security, right? Because with GRC, you are forced to learn a little bit about all these areas, right? And then even if something comes up with your GRC experience, you can easily function in any of those areas. So I do, even though I didn't start as an internal, I actually worked with the audit team. I wasn't the main internal auditor for the company, but then once our auditors were let go, I was able to, work and get our company through our ISO audit, even though I didn't start as an internal auditor for the company, right? Same thing. So third-party risk management, even though I'm a GRC analyst, I do manage our third-party risk management. So as I said, right, there is a contract review and also the audit part. So let's say generally, with a contract with a third-party vendor, sometimes the third party will come in like on a yearly basis to do an audit on you guys, right? And guess what? Those audits, I'm actually the person representing our company to provide those evidences, right? So those evidence, any question or any follow-up, I'm actually the person who's acting as a liaison between myself, between my company and the third party, vendor, the third party company as well. And so day-to-day basis, right? So my calendar is actually filled up with all these processes. So generally, I get up in the morning, 5:10. Once I turn off my laptop is to check my emails. So I check my emails, I check my teams, and then I look at my calendar, right? So some days I might have a documentation process review, right? So as I said earlier, I'm in charge of ensuring that all our policies, our cybersecurity policies, IT policies have been reviewed, right, updated and maintained. So basically, sometimes, not sometimes, but like generally, like let's say example, let me pick up a Monday. So Monday, generally, I have a 1 hour session where we have to review a policy. So I'm actually the person driving the meeting. So I manage the meeting. I'll set up the meeting on the calendars, send out the meeting invites, and then basically, so with policies, let's say generally for cybersecurity policies, every policy in the company has an owner, right? So you as a GRC person or a cybersecurity person, you don't own every policy in the company. So basically what you have to do is I set up the meetings, I manage the meetings, and then I work with those policy owners. So those documents owners to update and maintain those policies, right? An example is, let's say, our encryption standards, right? So encryption standards is owned by our cybersecurity engineers. So basically, let's say on a Monday we have a 1 hour section where it's going to be me and the two owners, and then my other GRC partner, and then we'll be going through the documents, and then they will be doing the audits because they own that and they are experts in those areas, right? So our role is to just make sure that the documents actually comes with our company template, right? The formatting. So those are some of the things we look like. And then, of course, we have policies that we GRC we own, right? So, example, the big cybersecurity, like the big information security policy, which every company has, right? So we own that. That's a big policy. And from those policies, we have like the other standards, right? The encryption standard, access control, and those actually have other owners. So we work with those owners to make sure we update those policies, right? Third-party risk management. So I said a little bit about that. So working with procurement in our company to ensure that whichever third party we are going to be working with, their cybersecurity posture aligns, with ours. And if it doesn't, we find ways to make it work. So basically, maybe coming up with competency controls and ensuring that, right, we can, get along. Our environment can get along with theirs, right? Vulnerability management. So vulnerability management. So like on Tuesday, for example, right? Tuesdays we have a 1 hour section where it's myself and so the GRC team, the infrastructure team, and the cyber operations team. So the cyber operations team use Qualys, which is one of the tools we use. So we use Qualys for our vulnerability scans. So they run the scans. Generally, the scans run on the weekends, and on Tuesdays we review the scans, right? So with reviewing the scans, we have the infrastructure team, we have the GRC, and then we have the cyber operations. So every server, right? Every server has an owner. So during the review, we review which servers are lacking a patch, and then depending on the SLA, the server level agreement, some patch may need an exception. So we have what we call an exception or risk acceptance, right? Which we don't have the time to go in deep. I'm just throwing out some of these processes out there so that way you guys can, start researching and then looking into those. So we have what we call risk acceptance and then risk exception. So basically, I'm actually the person managing those processes, right? So let's say if a server, if it comes up, like Qualys does the run, Qualys does the scan, and it comes up that this server needs patching, but the patching maybe is going to take maybe 2 or 3 months. In that case, we need an exception, right? So I'm going to work with the server owner to get that exception in. So basically, I'm going to set out a questionnaire, and one of the tools that we use is Zen GRC, and I always say that Zen GRC is actually like my second wife because I always work with Zen GRC. That's like my number one tool on a daily basis. So send out a questionnaire to get more details on the server that needs the exception. And then once the details have been gathered, I set up a meeting. So it's going to be me on the meeting, myself, the server owner, our CISO, and Director of Information Security. So we present the servers and why those exceptions are needed, the mitigation plans and the remediation plans in place. And then if the CISO agrees, right, he gives approval. Sometimes he doesn't agree. He'll say, oh, no, I'm not going to approve this. I need more explanations. I need more remediation plans, or I'm not okay with remediation plans, right? So some days, these are some of the meetings I have, right? And another meeting might be, hey, I have a follow-up call with an external auditor because maybe one of the vendors are doing an audit on us. We provided some evidence and they have some follow-up questions. So it might be a call. So then, they'll work with us and then set up a call, and then I'll be on the call and I'll be answering, any questions they may have. So and in terms of tools, I think I already said tools. So we use NGRC, that's our GRC platform. We use Qualys, right? But like the number one tool, which I always stress on, is Excel, right? So like if you want to survive in this field, Excel is something you have to stress on. You have to like basically strengthen, your basics and fundamentals. Because without Excel, trust me, you're not going to survive this field. So Excel should be your number one tool. So once you know Excel, you can worry about learning. So like for GRC tool mainly, those tools are easy to learn, right? Basically, like for our GRC tool, once I joined the company, they actually had one person, a person from risk optics basically trained me through the tool, right? About 2 months. And after 2 months, I've been doing it on my own, so managing the tool on my own. So I'm just saying this so that you all know, don't focus too much on the tools. The only two I would say people or anybody trying to get into cybersecurity to focus on should be Excel, number one, Word, and then PowerPoint, right? Those are the mainly three tools that nobody's going to teach you on the website, right? But when it comes to vulnerability scanning tools, when it comes to GRC tools, definitely those they're going to have somebody train you on. But when it comes to Excel, PowerPoint, and Word, nobody's going to train you on those, right? So that's how my day-to-day look like. So just basically checking emails, checking Teams, checking my calendar, and then making sure I attend my meetings, right? And luckily, for my role, I'm actually in charge of, setting up most of my meetings. So I can always schedule my meetings, depending on my personal needs and as well as my family needs as well. So yeah, so that's how my day looks like on a day-to-day basis.
Wow. That's Michael for you, dropping a lot of knowledge. I know Michael is very, very humble guy, but Michael actually, he's doing two jobs. He also works as a manager, GRC manager. So we'll probably have him
Man,
dive more into it.
stop exposing me.
I know Michael doesn't want to talk much about himself, but yeah, he's a pro in the industry. Mike and I will go way back. We talk about stuff. Yeah, good presentation. Big picture. I hope everybody's learning about GRC, governance, risk, and compliance, right? There's governance, what we call our GV controls. So that's all the policies, all the standards like Michael was talking about. Most companies have like different teams. They call the SPE, the policy exception team, security policy exception team. They come up with all exceptions like what Michael was talking about. Like let's say PCI standard is minimum of 12 password, right? But there's a legacy system that cannot pretty much use 12 password, right? So they want to use, let's say 8, which PCI accepts minimum of 8, right? They have to go through like a policy exception. So that's what Michael was talking about. So they have to review it, they will approve it, and then they'll give an exception for teams. So just wanted to, explain that so the broader audience know exactly how policy exception is handled. So within GRC, I know Michael talked about everything. He does a little bit. Seriously, he's like a jack of all trades. He talked about governance, risk with the TPRM that he talked about, with the compliance GRC. The C in GRC is compliance. He runs a lot of compliance initiatives, right? We have PCI, SOC 2, and that's what he was saying. The tool that they use to run their compliance program is the Zen GRC. Very, very good tool. I've used it before personally myself. And when it comes to risk, I know most teams are pretty much our panelists. They've talked about Archer. Archer, most people know it to be like RSA Archer. So when you hear RSA, it's literally the same thing, just different company bought it from RSA. So that's what they use. Most companies use RSA Archer to do their risk assessment as well. Mike, I know you don't want to talk much about yourself, but can you please talk a little bit about the team on your managerial side, how you combine that, managing different people and getting the job done as well?
Yeah, so on the other job, can you hear me correctly?
Yeah, loud and clear, please.
Yes. Okay. So like one, I'm a GRC analyst, and the other one, I'm actually a senior information security analyst, which is on the GRC side. So basically, I work. So I do. It's myself and a GRC analyst, and we do have two analysts on the team as well, and then we have our two engineers. So that's like a team with our director as well. So it's a team of 7 people. So basically, with that one, we actually manage the governance and risk compliance aspect. So in our role, we actually have to basically ensure that the two analysts, right, basically number one, updates our processes. So so example, right, we have our vulnerability management process, which is owned by the two analysts. So, and like this week, I actually have to work with the two analysts to ensure that document is updated, right? So those are some of the things we do on a daily basis. So just basically making sure we guide teams through the right path, right? And when it comes to things as vulnerability management as well, right? So basically ensuring that the server owners understand what our policies are in terms of exception, right? So, and within the exceptions, we have the risk exceptions and the risk acceptance, right? So basically breaking it down and making sure they can understand and follow what we are actually trying to achieve, right? So example, risk exception is when, so let's say the server need patching, but we know that the patching is not available, but it's gonna be available at some point, right? So that's where we work with the server owners to ensure that whatever timeline they provide us, we are going to check back with them and ensure that those servers have been patched, right? And the second one was risk acceptance. So risk acceptance, we know this server is actually vulnerable, but the patches are not going to be available because it might be end of life, right? So in that case, we have to make a business decision, right? Since maybe those servers might be so critical to the business need, we can't just take them offline, because if we take them offline, either it's going to break something or it's going to cost our business money, right? So that's where the risk acceptance comes in. So we have to work with those service owners to basically ensure that they understand the differences, and then the final, approval decision is going to be by the CISO. So the CISO is going to determine whether we want to accept that risk, which in 95% of the cases we do accept it, because if we don't, it's going to cost us money, right? So yeah, so basically that's the second the other job, right? So it's more a senior role. I have to manage basically the two, work with the two analysts with my GRC partner, and the other one I'm actually a GRC analyst, and so I basically do the same things on both jobs, right? So I do policy reviews, I do vulnerability management, third party risk management. I mean, you name it, and I'm there, right? So these are some of the things we do, right? And mind you, I've been doing this since 2022, so it's been only 2 years, even though you probably think I've been doing this for like 10 years from the way I speak. But it's all, thanks to the training I got from Eretmis, right? And without Eretmis, like I wouldn't be where I am. So, and that's why, I'm looking forward. I always look forward to being on this chat, and also encourage and push others that are coming behind us, because, and as I said earlier, if I am able to do it, right, without no background, no experience, if I'm able to do it coming from a healthcare background, trust me, anybody on this call can do it. It's just a matter of putting in the work and making sure, you make yourself available for all the sacrifices that's going to come your way. So I think, hopefully that answers the question.
Yep. Thank you so much. Yeah, as you can see, the team, they are asking a lot of questions. They are very excited about their presentation. And as you see, we only have so much. We are running out of time, and we'll definitely have to do a part 2 of this as well. We have this actually discussion structure. We initially started talking about the introduction and background. We'll go into the tools and techniques, what we are currently talking about. We'll go to skills and training that is required to do that. And we'll also talk about work-life balance, right? And also how to prepare yourself for a GRCO. And also at the end of the day, we'll wrap it up and talk about some of the organizational culture and fit. We'll talk about the future of GRC, and we'll talk about some personal insight, experience, and final thoughts. So we have this broken down to different domains, but because of time, we will definitely have to split this. We'll probably do one last round, and depending on the time, we'll see if we can wrap it up. Thank you so much, Michael. So now let's pivot to, I think Kingsley had to pivot and go do something else. So Divine, if we can pivot back to you, and you can tell us within GRC, right, is there any specific area you are currently concentrating on? Or you are currently focused on, so the team will know?
No, right now I'm not focused on any general area of GRC. Although in the course of doing my evaluation, we're looking at compliance, we're looking at different areas of other areas that has to do with policies. So some of the issues we ran into are policy-based issue, where some applications have not been evaluated for over 2 years. And they come back to find out there's really no clear-cut policy on how often those applications should be evaluated. But considering the current attack environment, how ferocious it is, it wouldn't make sense for you to leave an application for over 2 years, especially in an environment where you're dealing with payment card data, you're dealing with privacy issues. So we had to review policies and all of that to ensure that everyone is in compliance. And that is why we're doing the migration, to make sure that every single application is properly evaluated before we close them out. So we know that at least within the first 1 year, every application is in compliance.
All right. Thank you so much, Divine. Mike, if we can have you back for 10 seconds, I think, so you talked about compliance. I think that team will be very beneficial if the community will know within your company, what are some of the compliance frameworks that you do every year? PCI, SOC 2, can you let us know which compliance frameworks that you do every year?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, yeah. Okay. Yeah. So so for one company, we are in compliance with SOX, because we actually looking forward to going public. So basically we are acting as if we are a public company. So we do SOX compliance, and I'm part of the audit team for SOX compliance. And for the other, we do SOC 2 and we do ISO. So yes, and I manage the ISO, and then my other partner manages the SOC 2. And as I said, we basically work in support of each other. So whenever there is a SOC 2 audit, basically I help her get through the SOC 2 audit, and when we have our ISO audits, she also help me get through the ISO audits as well. So these are some of the things we do in compliance as well. And also, as I said earlier, we manage our policies. As we know, when it comes to compliance, everything starts with the policy, right? Because without the policies, there is no way we can actually function as a company in terms of cybersecurity. So we are actually in charge of making sure we have those policies in place and that those policies are actually updated, right? So for our documents, so basically for our policies and standards, we update those on a yearly basis, right? And then processes, we do those like on a 3 years basis. So basically ensuring that the company has policies in place, and then those policies are always up to date, maintained, and are actually have all the inputs necessary, to make it to the final version. So we do have a policy review process, right? So which I didn't get into. So basically, whenever a policy is due for update, which is also part of compliance as well, we reach out to the policy owners, work with the policy owners, and then make sure those policies are updated. And then once those policies are updated by the policy owners, we push it for the next level, which is going to be the review from our Director of Information Security. So Director of Information Security reviews, approves, and then it goes to the CISO, right? So our big information security policy has to be approved by the CISO, but like standards and processes just needs to be approved by the Director of Information Security, right? And this is part of compliance. As well as part of compliance is also third-party risk management, right? So all the frameworks, so more or less all the frameworks requires you to have a program for third parties. So how do you manage any risks from your third parties, right? So we do have documentation in place for how we manage our third parties as well, which I stated earlier. So one is basically when at the initial phases of the contracting phase, we have to do a security review, right? So every contract in a company, there is a security portion of that contract. So with the GRC, we read that contract. And so sometimes we read a contract, and then since those the new companies basically cybersecurity posture doesn't align with us, we have to put a stop onto that. So basically, the contract can go ahead without an okay from the GRC team, right? But then, of course, our CISO can always override us. But if we feel like, hey, this new company we are going to do business with, it's too of a risk, we can say no, we don't give our approval, and then our CISO can always go in, review, and then approve if he thinks maybe. Sometimes they do because the onboarding company is going to make us so much money, but at the end of the day, we are GRC analysts, we have to, think about protecting our company, right? When we leave the business decisions to our CISOs and our management. So we generally, in terms of compliance, we review third-party risk management as well, so ensuring that the new company's cybersecurity environments, aligns with ours as well. And so compliance, training, awareness that I said earlier. So basically, we ensure that we send out training awareness on a yearly basis, right? And then also we do phishing campaigns on a quarterly basis, right? So for one company, it's on a quarterly basis, and for the other one, we do it like once every 6 months, right? It companies varies, right? But I actually like the posture where at least do it every 3 months for phishing training. So, and we recently just did one phishing campaign, right? It didn't go great. So basically, I'm actually gathering the reports, and then I'm going to have a meeting with the CISO, and then we're going to review, and then we're going to come up with a game plan on how to address, that failure. So these are some of the things you do in terms of compliance. So basically, just ensuring that your company is, and as Dr. Du says, you can't, eliminate risk, but you can just reduce it. So compliance, we are just, we do all we can just to reduce the risk to the minimum level if possible. So. Yes,
All right.
and also, I apologize for speaking so fast because I'm trying to get so much in because I know we have a limited time. So, but that's all I have for now.
No, you are good. The team really appreciates all your insights. Yeah. So we'll pivot to Kingsley. Kingsley, talk about your specialty. We'll move to our awesome GRC ladies, Bernice, Sheila, and also Teresa. They'll talk about any specialty that they do in GRC. And then we'll wrap it up for tonight. I'm sure most people have some questions. We'll open up for questions, and I will wrap it up. So if you can, go ahead and take it away, Kingsley. Any specific GRC specialty that you are currently involved in? I think probably he's on mute or trying to organize himself. I know he had other engagements this evening. Okay, I think Kinsley already spoke. Divine already did. Mike did. So yeah, let's start with you, Sheila.
I didn't speak.
Oh, you didn't? Okay, I'm sorry. Divine, please go ahead. I think I meant Divine. I'm sorry. So Divine, go ahead, please.
Brother. So in GRC, I'm specializing in the payment card industry because cybersecurity is a very big umbrella with several branches. GRC is one of those big branches of cybersecurity, and under GRC, there are several other sub-specializations. The payment card industry is one of those niches which is very remunerative, and that is where I'm specializing. That's PCI. So I'm training under PCI. I've just finished my training, a training that qualifies me to work as an ISA, and I'm going further to take another training which will permit me to have the QSA experience. And I chose that particular area for three main reasons. So with GRC is one of the areas that has a very a long ladder, that is in terms of career progression, because I really want to build a solid career, and I want a domain where I can see myself moving up the ladder, and that will give me a lot of satisfaction. So in the as a PCI expert or PCI subject matter expert, I can see myself moving from one level to another.
Did we lose Divine? Let's see. We can probably because of time, yeah. Divine, when he come back, he can go ahead. Oh, still here?
Okay. Yes, I'm here.
There you go.
I'm sorry,
all right, please. Yeah, go ahead.
So the reason why I selected that specialization is because of the length of the ladder. The ladder is really long, and you create a lot of. Second reason why I selected that specialization, the special, because of the ease of integration. So the PCI is one of those areas where perspective of your bank as has been shared by almost all of the esteemed colleagues and panelists who are here today. It takes just very little. It doesn't take so much to be able to integrate your past experience to the PCI industry, because everything you have done before has some element of compliance, and that's one of the strengths of Eretmis. They help you to take all your previous baggage, to doctor it, and to adapt it to PCI industry. So it is very easy to integrate. You're coming from healthcare, whether you're coming from management like myself and so on, the PCI specialization is great. The third reason why I chose that specialization is because availability of training and support. It is true that PCI is a very small niche, and there are very, very few that are countable, like one or two. I don't even think there is a second one after I read it that gives you a very edge-cutting training and in-depth understanding of the industry. But then when you come to Eretmis, everything becomes easy. The training is there, second to none. And most important, the support that you get from the academy, from the training, from the promoter, and so on, and also the contacts that you get, the links that you get, the network that you build for yourself. That is one of the pull factors, and the one I think the biggest pull factor for me also, because almost all of us, especially those who are on this call who are still in training, you probably came into cybersecurity from another field, or you haven't done cybersecurity probably from elementary, from college level, you're coming to cybersecurity with a knowledge from a different industry or from somewhere else. So the support that is provided by Eretmis, it's one of the biggest catalysts that you need to be able to sail through. And that for me was a big pull factor. The last but not the least, and I think the most important pull factor that sent me to this specialization also is the fact that the PCI is by far, I think, my opinion, the most lucrative area in GRC. The salary is good. Let's not tell ourselves a lie. The money also attract me. So that in summary is some of the reasons that made me to embrace that specialization. At the moment, I'm a PCI, the PCI industry, and I want to get trained as high as possible. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Divine. So yeah, we'll pivot to our three awesome GRC ladies. We'll start with Sheila, then Bernice, and then Teresa. You can take us home and we will wrap it up. And we'll open up about 5 minutes for Q&A. So Sheila, please take it away. Any specialty in GRC you are currently involved in?
Yeah, I have focused in PCI. Although it isn't something that I get to use very much at my current position, sometimes just a little bit of training here and there, but not the assessment itself. But I do carry the knowledge and intend to grow in that. But when it comes to what I do now, our main goal that we're trying to expand is there's a lot of stakeholders that don't have IT or do not have great cybersecurity programs in place. And so the risks, when you do a risk assessment, their risks is like up the roof. They don't even have any IT or anyone managing their system. So we have been using CrowdStrike. So I will, from the state and from actually CISA has offered a free CrowdStrike program. So I usually go there to install that for them and then also educate them on how to configure it and help it at least give them some level of protection because they don't have anyone monitoring their systems and stuff like that. So that is the main thing that we have been focusing on, but basically PCI is what I have specialized in when it comes to GRC. I do presentations on that every now and then just to expand on the training and the fact that any of the stakeholders that is accepting any form of credit card and all that that falls into PCI jurisdiction will try to stay in compliance. So that's basically it. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Yeah, Sheila is also a very great resource. She knows we go way back as well. So Sheila is doing, she talked about PCI. PCI is under compliance. So we did a GRC. It looks like she's also focused on compliance aspects. All right, Bernice, please go ahead. And then Teresa, you can follow right away and take us home.
Okay, so for me, we have the GRC office or GRC department. So we have the governance, people in charge of policy. We have the compliance, the team that ensure that whatever we are doing within the cybersecurity department, we are in compliance with this risk management framework. So for me, I focus on the risk aspect of the GRC. So as an ISO or Information System Security Officer, I'm in charge of risk management for my assigned systems, kind of coordinate with our stakeholders, our system engineers, system admins, system owners, to make sure that the risks that I identify through my vulnerability scan analysis, are being documented and work with my stakeholders in terms of how they can remediate. And if they cannot remediate, what's the way forward? If they need a risk acceptance, we document that, send it to senior leadership for approval. So I kind of document risks associated with all my assigned systems. I also do security impact analysis, as I said earlier, for any change that is happening in my system. It could be adding of software, moving to the cloud, and all those. I have to do analysis, so it's kind of risk assessment for the change and document the risks, present it to management, and they make the final decision and approve before the change is being implemented. So I'm focused on the risks, documenting risks for all my assigned systems, and before it gets approved or whatever change or whatever decision management will have to do. So I kind of start with, before any system gets implemented or operate in the federal space, you have to go through the assessment authorization, which is popularly known as the ANA. So as an ISO, before any system gets approved, I take the system. If it's a new system, we go through the process. If it's a system that already exists, we make sure that the ATO, the authorization to operate, is being maintained. So if it's a new system, we go through the assessment and authorization. We have the RMF steps, 7 steps that I take the stakeholders through the step. It's a new system, and meet with them, take them through the process, what is needed before they get the ATO. And after the system get the ATO, we continue to monitor the controls that have been implemented for the system, work with assessors to make sure that the controls are implemented correctly, operating as intended, and if there's anything that needs to be fixed, we call it finding from the assessors. We document the risks and continue to monitor. If it cannot be remediated, I do point management to track the findings. So we can get findings for our system through audit, independent assessors, or we can even identify findings through the continuous monitoring. It can even be documentation not being up to date. And if it cannot be remediated within the timeline, we have timeline for all findings or vulnerability that has been identified. And so we prioritize our findings and we track them. We have a timeline for critical findings. It has to be remediated as soon as possible or within 30 days. So if any finding cannot be remediated between those timelines, I do point management, track them until they are remediated, or validate any evidence provided by the stakeholders. Could be an engineer, could be the system owner, and close at the point. So pretty much I'm on the risk side of the GRC, documenting risks for management to make decisions.
Right, Teresa, please take us home and we'll open up for Q&A. Thank you.
All right, thanks for the opportunity again. So for me, I wouldn't say specialty because I was part of the June cohort for last year. I've been in my current role for like 6 months and I'm still learning. I'm currently working as a vulnerability manager. So really, I just want to go with what I got and just learn from there. So working as a vulnerability manager, just like I mentioned earlier, I work with different application teams. So once we get scanning results from our scanning tools, my job is to work with the different teams to make sure that those vulnerabilities are remediated. And so my job really is to engage the different teams to make sure that vulnerabilities that are found with our assets, with our networks, with any open ports and servers are all looked at and remediated. And so in my role, I mean, when I got there, I had to work with this tool called Vulnerability Maturity Assessment Tool. And really, it had questions that I had to answer for just to know their baseline, where they stand with their current vulnerability management program. And this is going to be something that I'll be doing every year to assess how the company is maturing in that arena. And so, and also I've been responsible for drafting policies and procedures on how these vulnerabilities will be managed and remediated, and so how I engage with the different teams and how these vulnerabilities will flow once they are identified. So that is where I found my first job, and I'm just learning from there. And I believe with time, other opportunities will offer me to find a niche. But what I'm learning right now is just working as a vulnerability manager. Yeah, thank you. And one thing I just want to say is that if anybody is on here and not decided this is the right place, just being the last speaker, I just want to just look no further, because all that we are saying are not stories. I came with nothing and I left with something. Right after the internship, I got my job, I think a month after or so. So it's not stories. You can make it. Just devote your time, sign up for the internship, do all you can at that stage. Just make time and just get a lot from the internship and run with it, because the internship gives you a whole lot more that you don't have to question your skills looking for a job. So that's all I can say. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Teresa. You don't have to question your skills when looking for a job. That ends our evening. Thank you so much. And just by all the good information that the panel has pretty much spit on us, most people can even just listen to this and go past an interview. So it is very, very valuable. As Dr. Du put in the chat, I know some of you were asking, it's currently being streamed live on YouTube as well. When the recording is ready, right after this stream, it will be dropped on the, it will be uploaded onto the Eretmis website as YouTube channel as well. So we have two ways that we can see that. All right, let's go straight to Q&A. Justice, please go ahead.
Hi, thank you very much, Michael. Please, can you hear me?
Yep, loud and clear, please.
Okay, hi. So my name is Justice. Actually, I'm not the student of Eretmis, but I've spoken to Dr. Edu before, and he was very helpful. My question goes to, is it Michael? I don't know whether the name is Michael or so.
Yep, you got it, Mike. Yep, Michael. Yep, you got it.
Okay.
Yep, yep.
So, Michael, practically, I'm talking like somebody who knows nothing, because I actually know nothing about what I'm going to ask you. I'm only asking you based on what I've read. So in your presentation, you said something like, if let's say there's a system that is at end of life, but you guys cannot shut it down because maybe the company is going to lose money, then you accept the risk. So this is my question. In accepting the risk, what do you guys do? Like, do you do a comparison between, how do you call it? In case the system goes down, the money, whatever the company is going to lose, against, if let's say there's an attack, whatever happens, then you, based on that analysis, then you just go ahead and accept the risk. Or maybe you guys do, let's say, put in, how do you call it, other mitigating controls, like getting a host firewall on the, how do you call it, that will protect the system or whatever it is. So that's what I want to find out from you. And also, if you don't mind, I would like to get in touch with you for you to be my mentor. That is, if it's fine with you.
Yes, absolutely. And I did post my number in the chat, so just feel free to text me and we can schedule time to speak, right? And for the first question, so of course, yes, absolutely. So I didn't get into details because we didn't just have the time, right? But like vulnerability management is a whole, 2 or 3 hours plus section on its own. So of course, if a system is end of life, you just don't come to us and say, hey, this is end of life, you don't have a patch, so we just want to keep it running, right? Of course, you have to provide us with what we call compensating controls or mitigation controls, right? So compensating controls are controls we can put in place until we as a company decide we want to upgrade those systems or those servers, right? So it actually involves a lot, right? But lack of time, I wasn't able to get into it. So but it does involve a lot. So we basically have a plan. So it's going to be a whole plan of compensating controls. So you're going to put together the plan, and then we are going to schedule a meeting, right? A meeting between you, so you actually the system owner, and then basically the infrastructure, the VP of infrastructure is going to be on the call. We're going to have my director of information security on the call. We're going to have the CISO as well on the call, right? And I'm actually going to be the person, so basically I set up the call. Everybody is on the call. So opening the meeting, hey, so basically this is why we are meeting. We have these servers that are end of life, and these servers there's been a request for risk acceptance for this server. So then I'll throw the question out to the person who is the owner of the server, right? Okay, so we have our CISO and Director of Information Security on the call, right? So please, present your capacity control. So you have to give us a plan. So number one, the plan has to be written, right? So it's going to be a written plan, and then you're going to spend the plan on the call. So you're going to walk the CISO and Director of Information through your plan, and then if your plan is sound, so let's say sometimes we have, situations where the Director of Information Security is okay with the plan, but the CISO is not. And guess what? Whatever the CISO says goes, right? So everybody can be okay with it, but if the CISO says no, then it's a no. Everybody can say no to it, but if the CISO says yes, then it's a yes, right? So the CISO actually is the person who makes the ultimate decision, right? But there's going to be a plan, so you're going to put a plan in writing, and then you're going to walk us through your plan during the call, right? There's going to be a call, sometimes 30 minutes, because sometimes it's straightforward, right? You provide your plan, there are no follow-up questions. So 30 minutes, then we can get it done, right? Sometimes it might be an hour, and still after the hour, our CISO is still not convinced, right? So it's a long process, it's not that straightforward that you just come to us and be like, hey, I need a risk acceptance for this system, and then we just grant it to you. No, it's going to be like a written process, right? A written process, and then a verbal process where you have to basically work management through what compensating controls you have in place, right? And it always comes down to the money, right? So basically, 90% of the cases, 95%, there's going to be an approval, but the approval is going to depend. It's going to be dependent on what compensating controls you are able to provide. So hopefully that answers your question. But vulnerability management, I mean, it's a whole section on its own. So it's probably going to take hours if you want to go through, everything, which I didn't, because we just didn't have the time to be able to do that.
Exactly, that is fine. So what I'll plead with Doc is, Doc, if it's possible, I think if we can have like a whole session, maybe is one speaker that take us through exactly whatever they are doing. We'll be able to ask questions, we'll be able to understand it, because I can tell you for a fact that some of the things that are listening to here, it makes it easier for me to speak to things than, how do you call it, sitting in some of the classes. So I think it would be fantastic if you can give us such an opportunity. Thank you very much, Michael. I'll get in touch with you.
Okay, absolutely. Anytime. My phone has been posted, so, feel free.
Okay, man. Thank you very much.
Yep. Yes, sir.
All right, thank you so much. Yeah, so we'll pivot to Jamel. After Jamel, Isaac, you go. But I just wanted to add to what Mike said. EOL, end of life, we see this a lot. Some companies do extended support as well. Typical ones we see is AL1, Amazon Linux 1. We see Windows 12. Also, we also see Ubuntu 16, current versions like 24, is 24 something. But long story short, when there is end of life service, to your question, Justice, we see most companies, they can purchase an extended support, right? So I know Michael talked about having like compensating control. We've seen companies purchasing extended support. You go to the vendor and purchase an extended support so it can be covered, even though it's end of life. Yeah, we can dive into all this later. Jamil, please go ahead.
Hi everyone. My first question is for Bernice, and anyone else who can answer it. You were talking about the risk mitigation. I'm kind of interested in that myself. So I want to know, how do you calculate the probability of a newfound risk occurring, and how much would it cost the company if it's breached?
Can you repeat? I think that you were breaking up a little bit.
Okay. So I want to know, how do you calculate the probability of a newfound risk occurring, and how much it'll cost the company if it's breached?
Okay, so in terms of, I'll relate it with what I do. So when we get the vulnerability scan analysis, each of the findings, there's severity assigned to each of the findings. So each finding, in terms of, we prioritize the findings and we reach out to the stakeholders in terms of how to remediate, right? So definitely the critical ones is the most one that they need to prioritize. So most of the time we go after them to remediate the critical ones and the high findings before the other ones are medium and low, right? So we make sure that they are remediated as soon as possible for the critical ones. And if they cannot be remediated, we need to get back to the system owners and everybody in charge of resolving that issue. And if they cannot be remediated within the timelines I stated, we definitely need to have a written, we need to document, and if we need to have a risk acceptance for that, then we document. And as Michael and the two Mike talked about, we need to have their compensating control as to like for where I work within the federal space, each finding has to be mapped to the control, right? So if the particular control that you are not able to remediate, what other control, what is the compensating control in place of that, right? So we need to know your compensating control. Are you continuously monitoring your system? Are you doing patching? We need to also talk about audits review to make sure that you are reviewing your audit logs to know who is coming in and out of your system, to make sure that we don't have any anybody outside the system, or whoever needs to have access. There's no any external person who has logged into the system. So that's how they're able to, in terms of reviewing your logs, that's how they're able to identify or make sure that the system is not being breached or there's no attack. So we prioritize critical findings and make sure that they are resolved and to avoid any breach. And as an ISO, I also do quarterly meetings, work with the stakeholders and review our audit logs, review accounts, users account, to make sure that only the right people who have been assigned to the system are the ones that logged in within the last 3 months. So that is how we're able to make sure that our systems are secured and protected. I don't know if I answered your question, to make sure that we don't get any breach.
Okay, so you're working within the PCI framework only?
No, I work, I'm a federal contractor, so I support one of the federal agents.
Okay, so I'm going to rephrase the question. I know that in some companies they have a risk tolerance. So if you want to put in a system and it's going to cost them so much money, if they ask you, well, is this going to be worth it? If it costs, in other words, if they get hit by the risk, if it costs less than installing the system, how do you give them that probability number?
Okay, so
the chances of it occurring and how much it would cost in order for them to make that decision.
Okay, so I'm not involved in that process. So mostly as management that make the decision in terms of risks, to accept risks. So the risks that I do, we don't put monetary value on that. We just document, do our findings and present it to management to make their decision whether to accept the risks or not to accept, or to give the system an authority to operate. So what I do in terms of risk management, we do not assign monetary values.
Okay, understood. Now, I have the other question for Mr. Michael Yaboa, if I may. I have a series of questions. I'm not trying to take up all the time, just let me know. But could you give me an example of a compensating control that you developed and applied? I mean, I know what a compensating control is, but in a practical sense, I think that's what the last gentleman was kind of saying. He wants a practical example, something you can kind of wrap your mind around. So that was one question. And then I wanted to ask, when you're doing your policy review, besides new revisions and administrative errors, what are you looking for? If they've already been approved and reviewed in the previous year. So is it just you're going to review them every year just to be reviewing them and show that you've looked over the same policy again? Okay. And the other question is, how tolerant is the company while adjusting, when you first get on the company, how tolerant is the company while you're adjusting to the company's nuances and the learning curve? The other question is, how are you managing your time with 2 jobs?
Yeah, man. I mean, that's a lot of questions. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So for the last one, as Dr. Du said, like I have a senior role in one, and for the other, right, it's not a senior role, but I actually just work with my manager, so he actually, gives me more leeway. So I'm actually in charge of my time over there as well. But with the senior role, I'm actually in charge of my time, right? So for most of the meetings, I actually schedule the meetings. So I schedule it around my other job, right? So just to make sure to not create no conflicts. So that's that's the advantage about having the senior role in the other job. And I think hopefully this answers that question. So and the other one was okay, for the policy, what was it again about the policies? Okay,
When
yeah.
you're
So you
doing
were
the
asking.
policy reviews,
Yeah, so policy reviews generally for best practices, right? We do it on a yearly basis because in security posture and security environments change, right? And an environment can change in 6 months, in 3 months, right? It doesn't really take that long for your cybersecurity environment to change. And also you have to consider technology changes, right? So day in, day out, we always have new features, new technologies coming up, right? So and that's a simple example. So basically encryption standards, right? So we do have like every year we have to make sure our encryption technology, basically aligns with the latest, technology that's basically available at that moment, right? So that's one of the reasons why we update policies on a yearly basis, right? So we take into considerations the cybersecurity environment of the company and then also the technology changes as well, right? And also you do have people leaving companies and people coming in, and everybody maybe okay. So let's say a policy was owned by engineer X, right? But engineer X happens to leave the company, and next year you do have another engineer, right, coming into the company. Every engineer, coming with their own perspective, their own ideas. So if they are going to be an owner of a policy, then they actually want it to be something they had input into, right? And then in that sense, they can say, okay, I do own this policy because I helped update and reviewed and make sure we maintain it. So you have to take into considerations various factors. So hopefully this answered your second question. I forgot the other two questions. So if you want to
could you
ask,
give a real life example of a compensating control that you had to
Oh,
use
okay.
in your job?
Yes. So, just without going too much into these details, right? We did have a couple of servers which was end of life, right? So, but we couldn't get rid of those because stocks per the stocks requirement, we have to maintain data for at least 7 years, right? So that 7 years wasn't up. So compensating controls in order to keep those servers, on premise was to basically so what we have to do. So the plan, the risk acceptance requester actually provided was we have this third-party company called Red Hat, right? So for every server, every source control server that hasn't reached the 7 years, so basically we can discard of those servers. We actually send it to them, and then basically they have a facility where they keep those servers on lock, right? So that's the capacity control. So basically they're going to keep it on lock, and we're going to make sure that they actually provide us with a report, let's say on a quarterly basis, to prove that yes, the servers you guys provided us are still unlocked, and nobody has actually gotten access to those kind of servers. So yeah, I mean this is one of the recent ones we did. So I do remember it, but
Okay.
during the years. So yeah, it's
Nice.
just
Great.
yeah. So
All right.
yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. I know we have a lot of questions coming through, unfortunately, because of time. So Isaac, can you please ask your question? Phoebe, Michael, Enim, and also Frank. So Isaac, Phoebe, Michael, Frank, and that's it. We'll wrap it up for tonight, please. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Michael. My question goes to Professor Michael Yeboah. And kind of Jamil kind of asked my question. I was going to ask a question on policies. As to how often you do policies and what goes into these policy reviews, and what will normally trigger a policy review. I think in your answer to the question Jamil asked, you touch on that. I don't know if there's any more that you want to add. Thank you.
Yeah. So basically, right, policy review process. So basically, as I said, policies and standards. So we have our mother policy, which is the information security policy, which is a policy I own, right? So myself and the other GRC person, we do own that policy. And then under that policy, we do have our various standards. And the standards have different policy owners, right? So basically, we use, so for the policy process review, we use the GRC tool, right? So for one job, we use Zen GRC, and for the other we use OnSpring, right? So basically, once the policy is due for update, the tool is actually going to notify you. So it's going to send you an email to let you know, hey, like let's say in the next, well, depending on however you set it up, it's going to, let's say sometimes, we give ourselves maybe 3 months, enough. So at least we have enough time to update so that way the due date doesn't overlap, right? So like in 3 months, the GRC tool is going to notify us that, hey, this policy is due for review. So then what I do next is I set up a call. So basically, number one, I identify who the policy owner is. So all I have to do is just look into the policy, and the policy owners are listed in the policy, right? So I reach out to them. We set up a call, a Teams call. I pull out the policy on my screen. They also pull it as well, right? Screen sharing, and then we do the review. So if they own the policy, then whilst we are in the meeting, we do the policy review. And if we GRC, we have any inputs, then we provide the input. But generally, they are experts of their own policies, right? So sometimes we might have some little inputs here and there because, as I said earlier, GRC, we do a little bit of everything. So we actually have to have a little bit of knowledge in all areas, right? So sometimes we come in and we provide, some guidance or some advices, right, on how to go about setting sections during the policy review. But ultimately, they are the policy owners, and they actually, the people providing the actual, reviews and their ideas to enable for us to move the policy forward. So once we are done with that, right, I'm actually going to, so basically I create a ticket within the Zen GRC tool. So I'm going to push the policies. It's going to go to the Director of Information Security, who is going to review it. If everything is okay with him, he's going to push it ahead to the CISO, who is going to approve, right? But let's say if the director reviews and feels like, hey, like I need more clarification on these sections, is going to put a comment in the Word document, right? So everything is tracked, right? So every changes you make to the document is going to be tracked. Everything is going to be showing, so we know who touched the document last and who made the last update, right? So the data information is going to make his updates if he needs more clarification, and then he's going to kick it back. He's not going to approve it. He's going to kick it back. So once he kicks it back, I'm going to get together with the policy owners, and then we are going to work on the suggestions our director provided, right? So it's a process, right? It's a cycle. So we're going to do it so the director is comfortable, then he pushes to the CISO, CISO reviews, and CISO approves, right? So we do this only for the big information security policy. But for standard, the last approval is going to be the director. So if the director is not comfortable with it, he pushes back. We fix whatever suggestions he provided. We push it back to him. Once he approves, it becomes the standard for the company for that year, right? And then next year, 3 months prior to the due date, is going to, notify us again. And sometimes we just open up the policy. All we have to do is just change the version and, maybe a couple of names. Maybe some people left the company. So that's all. So sometimes we don't do like major changes. It's just like there's some few changes. Maybe change the date and then change the name. That's all we do. So it's not all the time that we have to do big changes for our security policies.
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
all right. Thank you so much, Michael. Phoebe, please go ahead. Yeah, Phoebe, if you're talking, if you're on mute. If not, we can pivot to, yeah,
Okay.
there you go.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. My question is Michael Yeboah again. I just
Yeah, Phoebe,
wanted
we can barely hear you.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yep, loud and clear. Thank you.
Okay. I just wanted to ask about the policy that we are talking about. Is it the policy that we learned in list as we were doing the internship, or it's a different policies altogether? I just wanted to know that. And then my second question also goes to the lady who were doing vulnerability scanning. I just wanted to know which types of tools that they use in doing that vulnerability. So that's my question.
Okay, so for the policies, that's why the internship is actually, basically like the game changer, right? So like what I do as policy review is exactly what we did during the Eretmis internship, right? The entry-level internship. So same thing, right? It's not going to be any different, right? So you open up the policy, you see who the policy owners are, and then you just work with them, right? So only difference is I'm just doing it with more frequency on a higher level. But like what I do with Eretmis in terms of policy review, it's the same thing that I'm currently doing in my role, like nothing less, nothing more, right? Only difference is, you do more of those, and I'm doing it on a higher level. But yeah, it's the same thing. So like the one doing the Eretmis is actually, you were actually the person, right, updating those policies, which is a good practice, right? But like once you get into a company, well, I don't know how every company works, but for like the companies I've worked for so far, for like most of our policies, we have owners, right? So we just work with those owners just to make sure that those reviews are done. So basically, so some of the policies you did during the internship, so access control policy, password policy, business continuity, right, disaster recovery, those are the same policies, right? It's not like I'm doing a different policies from what you guys did during the internship. It's the same thing because I also went through the internship, so I can speak to it. So it's the same policies, right? Nothing different.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Michael and Neem, please go ahead.
Hi, good evening. Hi, can you hear me?
Loud and clear, please. Thank
Oh,
you.
okay. All right. So I just want to say that well, I'm a current student and I'm about to start the internship tomorrow, and I started studying with Eretmis Academy from 1st January. So I intentionally timed myself to start on 1st January, so I can always remember, where I started from. And what I want to say is that I'm always trying to encourage anybody who is on here that is contemplating getting on board that Eretmis is a good place to be. The support system is rich. I would like to say that Dr. Du is the first point of call if you need any help, and he's an appointment away. You get on the website and book an appointment, and you can always talk to him. Additionally, I have direct access to Michael Yeboah. I'm in Atlanta here, and I can tell you he's a rich resource for me. So I believe equally there are other panel members who also be if you reach out to them. So in summary, all I'm trying to say is that if you're contemplating, get on board, because the system, the support system is there for you, and the study materials are also there. So I've learned so much, and I want to encourage anybody who wants to do it to just jump on it.
All right, thank you so much, Michael. I think we'll end with Frank. There's some few questions in the chat. We'll go ahead. So Frank, Pro here, PCI Pro. Please go ahead, Frank.
Hi, everyone. Michael, mine is not actually a question. It was just a contribution. I'd like to piggyback on what Michael's answer in terms of time management when it comes to working two jobs. My advice, if you want to go that path, is to, especially if you live in the US, is to get one job on the East Coast and the other on the West Coast. That way, you can leverage time management, and be bombarded with a lot of work and stuff. So this is just an advice to throw out there in case you're looking into that path.
All right. Thank you so much, Frank, for putting a bow on that. Everybody knows Frank within the community. So I'll read a couple of questions in the chat here, and we'll go from there. I think, let's see the first one.
Daddy, work.
Picking up the questions here. So someone is asking, give me 1 second.
How will you from the inside out? What do you prepare?
So someone is asking from Joe, as ambassadors of Eretmis, what are you doing to promote Eretmis to pave the way for future employment of Eretmis intern or job? So as Eretmis, let me read this one more time. From Joe Ameya, as ambassadors of Eretmis, what are you doing to promote Eretmis to pave the way for future employment of Eretmis intern or job placement? So yeah, I'll probably take this one because of time. Yeah, so this is a community, very inclusive. As you can see, people joining from all over the globe, right? So just the cyber chat that we do literally every week, every Friday. We have a support channel as well, WhatsApp group that you can join. We also have our YouTube. So every single recording is posted on YouTube, of course, apart from our live version. So these are all avenues we promoted. You just share, invite some friends, let them join. We have some people who literally got jobs just by listening to Cyber Chat, right? They call us all the time. So we also post a lot of insights in our our WhatsApp channel as well, daily cybersecurity news. We have some members of the community as well. Whenever they see anything within the community, they post that in the chat as well. And if you are subscribed to Eretmis as well, we do push out newsletters in the form of email about whatever is going on. You know, we break down topics and stuff like that, right? So there are so many avenues that we contribute to the community as well. As far as future employment, it's literally based on recommendations, right? And also networking, right? We've seen people, a lot of networking really helps. Some probably a company might be hiring for a job because there's an Eretmis member within that company. They'll probably drop some message. We've seen this before. They'll drop it on our platform that, hey, our company is hiring for this position. So network, and get out there, join our class, and also those of you who go through our internship, right? It's, most people know it. We will help you with resume building. We'll help you with, job placements assistance. So there are so many avenues, just to mention a few. I can go on and on and on. All right, let's see, next one. So by way of announcement, so our new GRC internship starts tomorrow for all those in the listening live right now, and those on our platforms. Our new GRC internship starts tomorrow. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. We are trying to hit 1 million. We do mention this all the time. And also the cybersecurity entry-level course, please, if you want to get into cybersecurity. We also have GRC internship as well, if you're looking for like real world, hands-on experience. And of course, our PCI training as well for expert and specialists. We do that as well. I think the current new class actually began this week. So there's a lot of courses. Please go to our website, check it out. If you have any questions too, please feel free. You can grab our numbers, right? Myself, Dr. Do. We have so many avenues that you can reach out to us. You can go to our website as well, book an appointment, one-on-one, whatever you need. There are so many ways of reaching out to us. Dr. Do drop our contacts in the Zoom chat as well. So feel free to grab that. So many avenues to reach out to us. Let me go ahead and see if there's anything else. All right, thank you. Yeah, I think that's about it. We appreciate everyone. Let's see, I'm going through making sure I don't miss any important news, and I'll probably have Dr. Do if he has any closing comments. And I know most people are asking for our panel contacts. So yeah, they already dropped them in the chat. So please feel free and grab them. You can find them on LinkedIn. They are also in our Eretmis WhatsApp channel as well. Thanks everyone. I don't know, Dr. Do you have any closing comments before we wrap it up for tonight?
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate our panel members. Thank you for showing up and giving us all these great insights. And for everybody on here, our panel members, they are our family members, right? Part of the Eretmis family. And you could, hear from their story. They all started from somewhere. So wherever you are, you can also start from there and eventually get to where you want to get to as a security professional. And even if you're already in the security space, you can always aspire to move forward. So for Michael, doing 2 jobs, Michael, one cyber chat, I was just saying, hey, if you have a job already, still keep interviewing just for fun. And Michael took that seriously, went for an interview and playing around with interviews, and he landed his managerial role, right? So things that we say on cyber chat, some of them might be fun, but if you take them and you take it and you run with it, it's going to pay off big time. So I appreciate everybody's time and the insights and the questions and the discussion. This is a great place to grow and to learn. So every Friday we are going to have this, unless of course it's a holiday or something of that nature. But Michael, also great. Thanks for being a great co-pilot. And I'm going to leave it back to Michael to sign off and wrap up for tonight.
All right. Thank you all. Thanks for attending. We'll probably do a round 2, like we said, Phil. So Please keep an eye out our emails and all our communication channels. Until then, stay secure and stay compliant. All right, Eretmis family, good evening or morning, everyone. All right, take it easy. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, Dr. June. Bye, Mike.